day, everybody. This is John Thompson again for, I believe, part 14 on my conversion of the USS Pennsylvania from the Revell 1426 to USS Arizona. This week I did a lot of updating. I changed out the airplanes. I had some airplanes from a 1400 USS Missouri model that were actually the correct type of airplane for the vintage, so I did that, and I also added a couple of other elements. There is a dramatic change in appearance from 1944 to 45, and I can go over some of the changes that I've seen. I was able to find a very good overhead drawing which covers the deck plan as to some of the features I was seeing in the outboard, so it did explain some of the stuff that I was looking at. So without further ado, I'm going to show you the model, and I still have some more detailing yet to do on it. So here we go. We're looking at the port side, and as you can see, I'm showing you the superstructure, bringing it a little closer. You can see the fire control tower. I've added 20mm guns, so the 20mm battery is pretty much complete. These are the airplanes that I wound up replacing on the Pennsylvania, so that was one of the other things. Now, I also added to the superstructure these elements here, which are gun director mounts. Apparently that's what they seem to be when I look outboard on the outboard profile, and that there were two of them, so the overhead drawing did help. Now I have to also put rafts on those too as well to finish that off, so that's some of the other detailing I have to do. Now the forward superstructure itself, I'm going to have to work on adding photo etch railings, so that'll be the next thing that has to get done. In addition to that, it'll be just basically touching it up, and then I'll start the rigging on it. Now the rigging that I have to do is basically from the foremast up to basically the foremast to the main mast in the back where the fire control tower is. So I'm going to have to basically attach all the rigging lines. I'm going to probably go with a very thin tan thread. I'll try saying that 10 times fast, but I'm going to go with a thin tan thread attached with super glue to basically capture that effect, so that'll be nice when I get that done. I like the tan because it stands out against the blue. Typically, probably would not have been a tan color. It would have probably been something to blend in with the rigging, so excuse me on that. So that's one of the other things. A couple of other things I did point out in this model are I did add an awning over the front bow part of the ship, the forecastle area, and there's a reason why I did that. I added an awning over the forecastle because it would have involved me doing a lot of surgery to modify the hawsers that were covered over, plated over, and also the fact that the chain plate was different on the Pennsylvania in wartime. It basically, what they did was they took the two forward anchor hawsers, and the after anchor hawsers were basically eliminated on that. So the whole chain plate configuration is different. So in order to basically save myself the trouble of using my Dremel tool and leaving scars, I wound up just basically putting an awning over it, which would have been prototypically correct anyway. The Arizona sort of had that at Pearl Harbor, so that's kind of where along the lines I was going with that there. The other thing too that I'm liking about the ship so far, Shapeways does have a very nice casting. The castings look great, and it's really working out very nicely. I wish I could have gotten the 1/426 scale parts. The unfortunate part about their site is you really have to look through the site to find their stuff. You can actually Google it and then get in that way to find it, but I didn't know that they had the 5-inch gun turrets, the 40mm mounts, and other things that would have probably helped me out greatly when converting the ship. I did have to use the 1/400 stuff as an alternate. It's sort of working out. Some stuff is sort of within the size, and some stuff is a little oversized. But when it came to a model with very little aftermarket and hard to find stuff, it really did help. Uh, and like I said, I'm very lucky I was able to find a gold medals photo etch set. Now, the only problem is the gold medal models photo etch set only has the Pennsylvania conversion for her post Pearl Harbor refit. This is the 1942 refit, where there's basically splinter shields on the 5-inch guns, as well as, sort of like it's that. When I say splinter shields, I mean that cover. It's a cover that covers the open air 5-inch gun, single mount guns. So that's something that is there. She still has the case-mated um, armaments there, so that's a couple of the other things. And also there were some other additional changes that were done to the superstructure. Shapeways does offer that superstructure for those willing to convert the Pennsylvania into that appearance, that post Pearl Harbor appearance, as well as what I'm doing now, the 1945. So that's something that's been a huge help to me. But like I said, it depends what you want to spend on the model. I mean, you can spend a fortune on this model just in aftermarket, and more than exceed the cost of the actual initial model kit itself. To give you an idea of perspective, the Arizona herself was about $25, that model. Now you start factoring in your superstructure, which could be about $46. The aft superstructure was $17. The funnel was $8. So stuff like that. You look into that when doing the models, how much you want to spend. Now, they also had other options. Like I said, they had the 14-inch gun turrets that you could basically outfit to the model, and that's a plus there. The 40 millimeter guns, they do sell those, as well as the gun director mounts too, and gun directors. So you just basically plunk everything on, and it would be it. They even also, excuse me, they even also offered a deck, which is basically the gun deck that fits over where basically turret 2 goes. That whole deck now, they have a 3D assembly for that, which is nice. It's got all the bulkhead doors, all the gun mounts for the 5-inch gun turrets, and it's also got wood grain on it, which is great. If you're gonna model that with a texture. I wound up just basically using styrene, closing it off, squaring off where the 5-inch gun mounts are, and not going with the wood deck texture. Most of it got filled up anyway with detail, so I'm not really missing a whole heck of a lot on that. So it doesn't really show up too much. It's not critical, but it's something that you can look into when building this model and doing the World War II conversion. I do wish that they would offer a 1916 version of the Pennsylvania with fittings that you can retrofit on the Arizona hull, as well as the cage masks. Now, I did see some cage masks that were available for another model, so that's something that possibly could work. They had it 1/350th scale, excuse me, and so that's something that could be. Maybe they could probably scale it down to the 1/429th scale, which would probably work, and that would include the mast tops and all the other stuff. So you can sort of mix and match the parts. The 1920 Arizona and Pennsylvania is interesting because you have an aft catapult. You have one catapult, which is actually on the stern. So that could be something you do with the photo etch, a little bit here, a little bit there, sort of piece that together. The only big thing would be probably the forward deck would be different because you wouldn't have the casemates on the that forward weather deck. That would all basically, those guns would be within the hull, so that would be something to look into. The conning tower actually goes down another deck, down flush with the deck, and of course it's very small in structure. There were a couple boat cranes that are located around generally where the funnel is, but it's not the elliptical funnel that you typically see. I think it's more of a rounded funnel, and so that would be something to do. You would have to probably scratch build the mast tops themselves, which were actually rounded. So that could be something as a project in the future. I actually might attempt that in the future. I have to look into it. Like I said, I have to just see what's out there and what's available and what my options would be. The main thing is trying to get that textured deck. That would be for them to do that. So the other thing too that I would like to point out too with Shapeways, the chain plate, you could use that forward deck that Revell makes. It's just that they would have to probably remove the casemates and basically continue that as a smooth flush deck with the grain on it, or the texture I should say, excuse me, of the planks for the decking. So that would be something that I hope they do in the future. So this concludes this recording, and have a great day.